Hello, and welcome to another episode of Starside Chat. I am one of your hosts, Zach Owens, and joining me, as always, is Aaron Capo.
Hello.
And a lot of interesting stuff to talk about this week. We got some confirmation of Summer Games Fest stuff happenings. Yeah, it's a pretty exciting time because we're like right on the cusp of like all the summer game shows.
The precipice.
Happening. Yes. But before we get into that, do you want to look at the MPD group revealed the most played games of Q1 2022, and it's nothing like you're expecting.
Can I guess?
Yeah, go ahead and guess them. I didn't put the link in our show notes specifically so that you would have to guess. But I don't think you're going to get any of them right. You have to think
Is this like a top 5 or a top 10?
There are 10.
Is one of them Fortnite?
Yes.
So
you're on the right track if you're thinking this way and not like stuff that was actually released in Q1 2022.
Is one of them Genshin Impact?
No.
Oh. Among Us.
Among Us is on there, yeah.
Man, that is where... All right, what else could I say?
One of them is an old game that you like, but I don't know if you've played recently.
Apex.
No, even older. Like, go all the way back to 2009.
I was still living in Texas at that time.
Involves a lot of crafting.
Minecraft?
Yes.
That makes sense to me because I didn't put it in the show notes, but the second part of the Wild update is coming out imminently.
Oh, really?
And so that's going to be something we'll talk about when it comes out. But that makes sense to me because that Wild update is ramping up and you can play the beta builds of it right now.
Another game on this list is one that you probably realize, even if you're not thinking of it right now, because it's a game that just every year continues to sell like hotcakes for some reason, even though it's like super old. It's a game from 2013. This is like a end of the 360 era release that somehow to this day still sells like crazy and just has a big active like online scene.
Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yes.
Was that number 1? What's number 1?
They are not ranked in order. They are just here's 10 games that are everybody's still playing. And then a couple of games from 2020 that you probably would think of for a list like this. One of them is
Elden Ring?
Nintendo first party from 2020 that everybody went crazy for just because it was like first year of the pandemic and
Animal Crossing?
Yes. And then the other one is a big battle royale that happened in 2020.
What, Warzone?
Yep, Warzone. So
really, that's surprising to me.
It is surprising. I would not have. I would have thought Apex over Warzone, but maybe. Oh, but I guess that makes sense because they had that big like Godzilla versus Kong.
Yes, thing. What a weird thing.
Did you watch any of that? I haven't seen any of that gameplay. It just like I've seen the trailers for it and it seems insane.
I see clips of it on TikTok sometimes, but it's just like people like flying planes into King Kong.
I don't know like how it works, but I'm very curious. It seems crazy to me. Other ones on the list, they've got like Madden 22 and NBA 2K22. I guess those are doing well, but like,
who cares?
I'm a little surprised that FIFA isn't on there, which makes me think maybe this list is a little bit more geared towards the US as opposed to like worldwide. But what do I know? Also, Call of Duty Vanguard from last year on the list. And
I don't even know what that is.
That one just skipped right over that one.
Is it multiplayer?
Call of Duty Vanguard?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the big Call of Duty release from last year, but it's the World War II one, so nobody cared about it.
Oh.
But it's apparently enough
completely
people
skipped over.
Apparently enough people cared about it that they're playing it and it made it on this list, but
that's crazy. Oh wait, was that the one with like the crazy multiplayer level editor thing we saw a trailer for, where like you could make crazy multiplayer games.
It's a Call of Duty game. I don't think they have a level editor.
What am I thinking of? Maybe where there was a Battlefield thing? I don't remember. Anyway, not important.
Oh yeah, no. You're thinking of Battlefield 2042 because they had that like thing where you could like mix and match different like you could create your own mode. It would be like one
like
tank versus a bunch of drones or something.
Yeah. That looked cool to me.
Yeah, I mean, that game apparently came out in a bit of a buggy state, and so as usual, people like memed it and got all mad about it, and it did not have the legs that a Call of Duty game has, but like I liked what I played of it, and it did have some like cool stuff going on, so I don't know.
It's crazy to me that I had no idea that Call of Duty Vanguard existed.
Really? I can't, like, I remember it coming out and people like putting out videos, and I was just like, I don't care. Like, why go back to World War II? How do they not realize that nobody wants a World War II Call of Duty anymore?
It's crazy.
They just want like modern and like futuristic warfare shooters. But and then the last game on this list is The Sims 4, which I find hard to believe, but I guess it's on.
It has like a million DLCs. Didn't they just come out with a new DLC for it?
I guess they must have if it made this list, because that's a game from 2014.
Yeah, they've just continued to iterate on that and include like content packs. I have no idea what the size of that game is anymore, but it's got to be massive because it's gotten so many different modules added to it.
Yeah, and I guess The Sims is the kind of game that like people who don't consider themselves gamers will play on a fairly regular basis. So it's one of those types of games. But anyway, that's the list.
Do you still play Wordle every once in a while?
Yeah, pretty much every day, yeah.
Did you see earlier, I think it was this week, one of the things was Gamer?
Oh, yeah.
That was cool, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue with news.
Did you get today's Wordle by chance?
Let me look. It's usually the first thing I do every morning. I did, but it took me all of the tries.
I don't think it took me all the tries, but it took me maybe 4 tries.
Those ones that only have one vowel really get me, because if you don't get the right vowel, you're just guessing nonsense.
I know. You get it. That's why I have to start out with words that you know are likely not the word, but they just have a lot of the vowels in there, so you can just like figure out what the all-important vowel is.
I need to do that. I need to get one of those. I remember when Wordle first started, there were all those articles about like, we used machine learning to figure out the best first guess on Wordle. And every time it was like crane, maybe.
Yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah, I've used
like,
that as a starter word every once in a while.
2 days later, like another article would come out and be like, "Well, we used machine learning, and it's actually this."
Yeah, now it's radio because it knocks out 3 vowels in one go.
Smart.
What I've learned is, even though it's like strategically a good idea to try a word that ends in like es, it's pretty much never going to be a word that ends in es. I don't know why. That almost never
a plural word.
Or yeah, that's what I mean. Like not a plural word. So you could like do draws, but it's not going to be draws. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you can use that as a word to rule out other letters, but like it's not going to be a plural word. It's just going to be a,
because S is still like a used letter a bunch. Like even if it doesn't end in S, it might have like an ST at the beginning or something.
Yeah, it's a common letter, so it's good to use it, but like, I don't know. It's never going to be a word that is just plural. It's just like the plural version of a word.
Until it is.
Yeah. Well, one of the rules will change eventually once they've used up all the other words.
Let's talk about these Sony TV shows.
Yeah, so Sony announced Horizon and God of War, which we already knew, and also Gran Turismo are getting TV shows for different streaming services.
Gran Turismo is weird to me because there's
Yeah.
no story in that game.
Yeah, that's the one that I like really sort of like turned my head about. I was like, really? Gran Turismo? Like I get Horizon, I get God of War, I even get like if they wanted to do a Ratchet and Clank series, but like Gran
Mm.
Turismo? What's going on there?
Horizon is interesting because I feel like they really got to spend a bunch of money on that. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like companies right now have not had a great track record of spending a bunch of money on stuff to
Yeah,
make it
like
look good.
the Halo TV series does not have the
Yep.
best special effects from
That
what
was what
I've
I was
seen.
thinking of. Yeah.
And so I feel like, I mean, it's gonna be a little less difficult because you can just like the main character is just a person. It's not like somebody in
True.
like crazy looking armor who's going up against these people that you basically have to use CG. Like she's talking to a lot of humans, and then
Mm.
I guess you will have like CG for the machines, but like it's easier to do a CG machine than it is like the what are the enemies in Halo? I already forget.
The Covenant,
Yeah, the
the
Covenant. Like
Elites.
it's hard to do one of those and make it look right, especially
I
when
don't
it's
know, man.
interacting with a human character.
It's going to be a lot of CG, I have to say. Unless, I mean, what you really want them to do is to go practical with some of the stuff. But I feel like that's not an option these days. They're just going to revert to doing
Yeah,
CGI
not
super
not for a
quick.
TV show. It wouldn't be. If this was like a big Hollywood movie, that might be an option. But like for a TV series, I feel like they're
Yeah,
not going to be able to pull off the budget necessary for that.
yeah.
But
Now, God of War is interesting because it hits that middle ground where you might not need that much CG, but you will need it eventually.
yeah,
It's really going to depend on who they get to play Kratos.
yeah. Which I mean, we've talked a little bit about that. I still hope they go with Christopher Judge, but
I would
yeah,
love that.
they're gonna have to get the casting right on that for sure.
Who would you get
Um,
to play the little kid? You know who you could get to play the little kid is that Finn Wolfhard.
who's that?
He's the kid from Stranger Things that's all semi grown up now who's in Ghostbusters Afterlife.
I mean, they could pull pretty much any of the kids from
It's true.
Stranger
But he's
Things.
the most annoying, I feel like. And that kid was super annoying in that game.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Just like find the most annoying one of them, and I don't know. He's just as long as he responds to boy, he's fine.
Yeah, that's true.
That's all it takes.
What are the.
Uh,
I did read this that Sony said they're going to bring more games, more of their games, their first party games to PC.
yeah. So the way I look at this, they released a few games like God of War and Horizon to PC, and they were like,
And
oh,
Final Fantasy VII
oh, you
Remake.
know what? Games actually sell on PC. We
It's
can
true.
totally make money on selling games on PC. Also, it's hard for people to get a PS5 right now. Maybe
Yep.
it makes a lot of sense to release our games on PC.
Still very
Uh,
scarce.
yeah, so I guess they're gonna bring. It would make sense if they brought Horizon Forbidden West eventually, since Zero Dawn is already on PC.
Mhm.
They released Death Stranding that did well, I think, for PC as well. But I mean, they could bring like Ratchet and Clank. I mean, I feel like there's any number of games that they could bring. I think they are supposed to bring the Uncharted games to PC as well.
That would be
I think
great.
that's on their list of games coming to PC. The thing about Sony is they do it in sort of like delayed fashion. They don't like it's not day and date, so they still give you a reason, I guess, to own a PS5. But whereas with Microsoft, they're just like as soon as this launches,
Yeah.
it's going to be day and date, PC, Xbox, wherever you want to play, and also it's on Game Pass. So. Which makes me wonder if eventually Sony will start doing
Wise up.
those things. Yeah, wise up, get their exclusives on PC, and also like make their new PlayStation Plus tiers. Make one of those tiers have access to day and date like their exclusives. But
Mm.
we'll see. We'll see if that's how it goes. It would be awesome if they could get Bloodborne on PC. I think that would be a really hot seller for them since it
Yeah.
is like relegated to PS4 right now.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy that you can't play it on modern systems. Or I mean, I guess you could
Yeah,
put
backwards
it in.
compatibility, but
Yeah,
like
but
there's
still.
not like a sort of, the ideal version where you have this crazy gaming PC that can run it on like these insane settings. But
Let's talk
uh,
about Jeff Keighley.
yeah, let's talk about Jeff Keighley.
He
So
loves new stuff. He's
he
all about
does.
new stuff. And so Twitter invented this thing that no one cares about called Spaces that I don't even know what it is. But
Me
he was like,
either.
I'm going to utilize this to do a Q&A about Summer Games Fest. And I did not watch it.
You didn't watch it? I tuned into a little bit of it, and the one bit I caught was somewhat interesting because somebody is it basically like a live radio call-in show,
Hmm.
and there were a bunch of people that were on the call, and it is like a weird thing. Like I don't know, I didn't know what it was either until I clicked on it. I was like, oh, I see. um, but Jeff Keighley, he's on top of all this new tech, and he's utilizing it. So
I don't know.
uh,
I follow I probably follow over 100 people on Twitter. Probably, I don't know what the exact number is. He is the only person that has ever used this feature that I follow.
Yeah, I think that's true of me as well. I think I've only ever seen him
Because it
use
like
it.
puts like a bar on the top of the app, like, hey, someone's doing a live thing. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah, that's basically what happened when I clicked on it. This happened like a week ago or so, but somebody called in and asked him, like, what he thought the future for like Summer Games Fest was, and if he was maybe planning on turning it into more of an E3 style, like live show with big presentations, like on a
Mm,
stage and all of that. And he said he kind of prefers the idea of like a decentralized version of that, where there's like maybe live presences in multiple cities around the world. So it's not like
mm.
just in LA or wherever they have their E3 stage. But also that he doesn't want to like move away from like digital stuff. Like he wants to keep it because there's like good opportunity for like previews and demos and like interacting with a lot of people around the world that can't make it to E3 or like some sort of live show. And so he kind of doesn't want to abandon those people as well, which maybe they've found that like the digital stuff works out well, which maybe would be why Nintendo abandoned
Yeah.
doing any sort of live stage thing and just went with Nintendo Directs years ago. But he also said that they have like 30 to 40 games that they're going to show off at Summer Games Fest. So
It's a good number.
good number, pretty exciting. Yeah, so I thought it was interesting just thinking about the future of like E3 and the Summer Games Fest and sort of where it goes from here, and like because we've been wondering with E3 sort of being put on the back burner over the last few years and now just like completely exiting this year. You wonder
They
like where they're going with it, what's going to happen in the future, and so Summer Games Fest is kind of like picking up the slack.
they said that ESA or whatever, when they canceled E3 this year, they were like, we're canceling this year, we're redoubling our efforts to make a big comeback in 2023. Who knows if that's true or not? Like, it seems like they're bad people, so they could just be lying.
Yeah.
But it could be that we do see some sort of revival of in-person events in 2023 from the ESA. But I mean, if this goes really well, I mean, maybe Keeley's thing will just be the only game in town, and no one will really care about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I like one of the things I think about when I think about E3 is like Nintendo always does like they have their Nintendo Direct style thing, but then after
Hmm.
that, I feel like they have multiple days of like what they call Treehouse
Yeah,
Live.
the Treehouse Live. Yeah,
Yeah, where they like have these like sets. I remember, I think it was 2019, ahead of the launch of Luigi's Mansion. They had this like big thing that they had set up to basically look like Luigi's Mansion, and they had like a bunch of people there that were dressed as like hotel staff, and like
that's
people
great.
would take their cameras in and go around, and then they could check out the game and everything. And it was like awesome to see, even if I was witnessing it from afar, like over the internet. But like I miss stuff like that. Like I would love it if like last year watching them play Metroid Dread like ahead of the
Yeah.
release of that. Like I don't want to see stuff like that go away. So it would be nice even if it's like what Keeley says, like maybe they have like Nintendo's doing something in Japan where they have like Treehouse Live, and maybe you know, you've got Microsoft doing something here in the US somewhere, and I don't know. I would love it if this stuff lives on and does not go away. So
I agree. I mean, I love E3, and there is something to be said for it to be like centralized in a way. I mean, whenever you hear reporters talking about old E3s, it's always like they say the hidden benefits of E3 are like the connections that you make, or like
yeah.
the weird random indies that you run into and write a piece on, and suddenly they explode. Like it's a cool thing to happen. And I wish it was not run by a bad organization that constantly is like making mistakes. But I guess we'll see what happens next year. Maybe they will like really rebound and people will be like hungry for it. That would be great. I would love for it to continue.
Me too. And I think you're right. I think it is better as a more centralized thing where like everybody, like you can just send like one team of reporters if you're an outlet trying to cover the thing, as opposed to like, well, now we got to have people watching this thing over there in Europe, and now we have to have somebody watching this thing in Japan, and it's gonna like the one in Japan is gonna happen like overnight while everybody's asleep, and like, you know, you got to worry about all of that stuff. So I do like the idea of just like, okay, Microsoft is here, Sony's here, Nintendo's there, and everybody just like walks across the street to go to the next one, you know?
It's cool. It's a cool vibe.
Yeah, even if I can't go to it or haven't been to one, I love watching all the coverage, and whatever makes that coverage easier to happen, I'm all for it.
We'll talk a little bit more about the fake E3 that's happening this year in a little bit. But before that, how about we bring the mood way down?
Yeah, let's bring it way, way down. How excited are you for a Lord of the Rings game?
0%.
0%.
But, well, no, I would say, no, let me say this. I'll say 10%. And then you would continue to say, okay, this Lord of the Ring game is exclusively about Golem. And I would say 0%.
Ah.
Gollum? I don't know how to say it.
Because when you watch the movie, he like chokes over himself trying to say Gollum all the time. So.
That's right. Yes,
Anyway.
This is the Gollum game. That's a weird third-person stealth game about the life of Gollum that, as far as I can tell, no one was asking for.
Maybe they were in like 2010.
Yeah.
You know?
Literally
maybe,
12 years ago.
Maybe earlier than that even. Like 2005. I don't know. Like, if you go back a long time ago, when did those movies come out? I forget. But whenever those movies came out, that was when the hype for all things Lord of the Rings was, and you could have released something like this and people would have cared about it. But I think it was IGN. They did a preview of it, and they were like, I don't know, this isn't looking too great. So basically, it is a stealth game. From what I read, it sounded somewhat similar to like a Plague Tale, where you're sneaking around and there's a lot of like stealth aspects. But also, they said that there's not really, like, you're not leveling up. Like, there's not character progression. So you have all the abilities you're going to have from the start of the game. And so, one, that's a little less appealing to me, but also, like, harder for the devs because they have to make those levels, those set pieces, really interesting, and it has to continue to evolve and get more interesting from like a level design perspective, because your abilities in game are not changing. So it's going to depend, I guess, on how well they pull that off. But
what's the timeline? Like, is this going to go through his entire life? Like, is it going to dip into when he's hanging out with Frodo and Sam?
It's supposed to take place a few years before Fellowship of the Ring. So
it's not going to end with him killing himself. There's not going to be a prompt where you press a button and then jump into a volcano.
I don't believe so. Maybe that's DLC.
Press F to jump into volcano.
Yeah. But no, I don't know. And they also said there's supposed to be some BioWare like decision making but I mean,
What?
I don't even know how that would work.
We know how his story ends.
We know how a story ends, and we're like, the game takes place before any of the interesting things happen. So I don't like.
Why is this being made?
It's a little like that Black Widow movie where you're like, we know like
Mm,
the most interesting parts of her story already because we've already seen them, and we also know how she dies. So like, why are you making a prequel movie
it's
starring
weird.
her? Like nobody cares. Like,
It doesn't make any sense.
so yeah, I don't really think I'm interested in this, but they did announce, I think, that it's releasing on September 1st, and there's supposed to be a Switch version eventually.
What?
So I don't know.
I don't know. Well, let's talk about this. Uh, the Star Wars Fallen Order was free, was like a Stadia free title last year at some point, and so I picked it up because I had a Stadia Pro membership, and I played through maybe 4 or 5 hours of it. I got to the point where I got the double lightsaber, and then I just kind of dropped off of it, and then I don't have Stadia Pro anymore, so I could buy it, I guess, or resub to Stadia Pro and continue to play it, but
I feel like I see this game on sale on different
yeah.
platforms quite frequently.
It
So
was fine. I mean, I liked it. We were talking about this before we started recording, but you played it a little bit as well, but kind of bounced off of it pretty quickly.
yeah, I'm not sure I even played as much as you do because I don't remember whether I had double lightsabers or not. But it was
But
this was years ago though. I'm
yeah,
now an Elden Lord, so
it's
maybe
true.
maybe I could go back to it and get something
I
out of
definitely
it.
set it on easy, because like
Oh,
the
I forgot. Are
first
there
world,
difficulty modes?
yeah, you can set it on like super easy, and then it just becomes like a story game basically.
Well, I just
Um,
remember one of the reasons I bounced off of it was there was a part like, and this is still pretty early on in the game, where I like was on this planet and there was like a lot of like tall grass and stuff, and I was walking around and these like rams just like started running into me, and I
mhm,
could not seem to kill them for some reason, and they killed me in like 2 hits, and I was like, I don't know if I'm looking for this type of game from
yeah,
Star Wars. I want to feel like was that Force Unleashed game where you're just like crazy
yeah,
powerful. Like that's
pulling down
kind
Star
of,
Destroyers.
yeah, where you're able to pull down a Star Destroyer. I want to feel that when I play a Star Wars game. I don't want to feel like, oh, some random animal that I didn't even think to fight might just come along and kill me in 2 shots if I'm not careful. Like
Hmm.
that's not really what I want out of a Star Wars game, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if I revisited this game now that I have played a Souls-like game,
I
maybe
have
I
heard the
would
story
enjoy
is
it.
good. And I think it is canon. I think that Cal Kestis might come like be real in some sense. Like the actual actor might show up in a live action thing. Uh,
I mean, they could
I don't
just
know.
make a movie or TV series starring him as well.
Yeah, I mean he might show up in the Obi-Wan show.
Oh, really? Is that what's
I don't.
rumored?
I don't know. I have no idea. But I think that would fit the timeline. Or would it? I actually have no idea.
I was gonna say
Um,
I'm disconnected from Star Wars at this point.
But they announced Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which is the sequel to this, and that's cool.
Yeah, the trailer they had was just a teaser, so you don't get to see any actual gameplay from it. But I don't know. This is a like people like this game. Like we're maybe the only ones who are like sort of cold on it. But
As far as like Star Wars stuff goes, like I think this game was better than the last like 2 or 3 movies
I
because
mean,
people are
more
really
than just 2 or 3.
yeah.
Even
It
having
was
not finished this game, I think what little I played of it, it's already like better than all the Disney Star Wars movies. I'm just gonna say.
so like I'm pro that, and I don't think it was a bad game. I just think I kind of
It was
bounced off
just
of it a little
not
bit.
for us, maybe.
Yeah, I think if I was interested in like Star Wars lore, I would have been super into it because I have heard that people who are into Star Wars really like the second part of the game has like apparently some good twists or whatever.
Mm.
But I mean, I'm pro this. I don't know that I'll play it, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there was an era for Star Wars games that I was into, like in particular, like GameCube, Xbox, and PS2 era. There was like a lot of
Mm.
really good Star Wars games that I really liked. But I don't know. I feel like, and I'm not like a big expanded universe person, but like when they killed off all of that, I did lose some interest. And then like all the stuff they sort of replaced it with, I've not been that into.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I've just been less and less interested in Star Wars as a franchise over time. So even though I think it's an interesting idea to make a Souls like game in the Star Wars universe, I don't know if I care enough about the franchise anymore to want to play it, but maybe that's just me.
Let's talk about Fake E3
Okay.
because Summer Game Fest was the first thing that got announced, and then this week, PlayStation announced that they're going to have a June 2nd state of play, about 30 minutes long, and I guess it's going to be PSVR 2 focused.
Hmm.
So there's going to be at least 20 major games for the VR platform at launch. And I think a large portion of this state of play is going to be just discussing all of the things that are coming to PSVR 2 and also probably the release date for PSVR 2. And that's the first thing on our slate of faux E3 press conferences.
Is this something I should get or
I
care
don't know.
about?
It looks very promising. They definitely have updated a lot. They've learned a lot since the first PSVR, which was solid. They had an interesting way of holding the helmet on your head, which I liked. They had like kind of a what do they call it? A like a they had a special name for it, but it basically like it was like a ring that kind of wrapped around the top of your head, and then the goggles kind of were on a rail that pushed onto your face. But they've learned a lot from the Quest line of headsets and all the Oculus stuff, now Meta. um, and so the controllers look way better. They have actual parity with.
Yeah, I was gonna say no longer using Move controllers.
Yes, yeah. They actually have parity with stuff on like PC. So it would be a boon, and I've heard a rumor that Half-Life Alyx could come to this thing at launch, which would
Really?
be insane.
That would be crazy.
Because I watched someone, I believed that I would maybe never get to play that game, and so I watched someone play through all of it, and it blew my mind. Though I was just watching it and not experiencing it, and so I think I will at some point get this if they continue to support it, because I think I'll definitely get a PS5 at some point, and this thing looks solid. I am interested to see this thing. I also heard a rumor that it could be compatible with like you could use it on PC maybe, because it's just going to
Really?
be USB connected to the PS5. So people were speculating that it could have usability on a computer that had like some sort of software that integrate, because you can use a Quest on Steam VR. Like Valve is very pro you using other third-party headsets to play stuff on Steam VR.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Like, if you could plug it in, I wonder if Steam would like do some updates to make it work with
It could
VR
be.
games on their
It'd be
platform.
very exciting. But yeah, I'm interested in this for sure, and I'm excited that this is going to be the kickoff thing, even though it isn't like general Sony. It seems to be just about PSVR 2. I think there could be some exciting announcements at this.
I'm not quite as enamored with VR as you are, but I will be interested to see like what they have for it and what some of the stuff looks like. But
So that's June 2nd. I don't know if we're going to get any Ragnarok news, but this would probably be the place where they would announce a release date for Ragnarok. Then
yeah.
Summer Games Fest is a week later. So Thursday, June 2nd, 6 p.m. ET is the state of play. Then nothing for now. It could be that we get announcements that there's going to be new
The
press
Nintendo
conferences.
Direct will go
Yeah.
in that slot.
Directly following.
And they
then
won't announce
on
it until Thursday.
They love to make you wait, or they love to not make you wait. They always are like, "Hey, tomorrow."
Yeah,
That's what they did with
exactly.
the Switch release. Like nobody knew what this was. It was always I always subscribed to the subreddit Nintendo NX because we didn't know what the name of it was,
Hmm.
and then they tweeted just like a picture of Mario behind a curtain, being like, "Hey, check out tomorrow. We're gonna release it at 9 a.m."
They make you wait because you're like, are we gonna get an announcement about a Nintendo Direct? And
Yeah.
so you're waiting for that, and then they're like, oh, by the way, it's tomorrow, and you're like, oh, I guess no wait anymore.
So then a week will pass, and then Summer Games Fest Live is going to happen Thursday, June 9th at 2 p.m. ET. I have gotten this day off, and so it is being shown at an IMAX theater in my area. I might go to the IMAX theater to watch this. I haven't decided yet. But
It
this
would
is
be
going to be the
very
big show.
interesting to hear your report on what that experience is like.
I was looking at tickets, and actually the theater it's in is actually somewhat full. So I was not expecting it to be, but a lot of the rows are taken up, which is kind of crazy, to me at least. But this is going to be the big show, I think. This is going to be. You said 30 to 40 games is what Keely said in his weird spaces thing. So
Hmm.
I am pretty excited for this. This I think you and I are going to record directly after this and chat all about it. But I'm pretty excited for this. And then on Saturday, June 11th, Gorilla Collective, which I am not familiar with. Are you familiar with Gorilla Collective?
This sounds vaguely familiar. I'm sure they have done shows like this in the past, and I'm just not thinking of what it is.
They're doing a something, whatever it is, on Saturday, June 11th at 11 a.m.
As long as it's not like the Coke Media one
Yeah.
that we joked about before we started recording. If you remember that from last year,
Then,
just devs, just for devs.
or that Netflix gaming thing from a couple of
yeah,
years ago.
yeah, that was awful as well.
Wholesome Direct is Saturday, June 11th at 12:30 p.m. This was pretty solid last year. I feel
Yeah,
like
I
they
feel like
had
there
some
was a
stuff
lot
that I
of
wanted
really
to
good
play.
indies that I added to my Steam wish list from.
So
these
this one I'm
shows.
excited to watch, and I don't. They haven't said like how long it's going to be or how many games they're going to show, but this will be one that'll be interesting to tune in for. Then I don't know what this is. The Future Games Show is at 3 p.m. on June 11th. It's an hour-long showcase put on by Games Radar. The publication says it'll spotlight 40 games, mostly from mid-sized publishers like Team 17 and Thunderful.
I do
Which is
like
exciting.
Thunderful
40 games. Yeah, it's a good number of games. So, whatever this could be, I'm interested in this. I don't believe that there has ever been one of these before.
I do wonder. I think there was one last year.
Was there?
Yeah, and I feel like some of it is overlap as well. So I hopefully it's not too much overlap. But I feel like last year I tried to watch all the shows, and there was like, I think Gorilla Collective was there, but I forget what it was. There was Wholesome Direct, and I think there was also Future Games Show, and then there was like Summer Games Fest, and maybe one other one that was like a Steam or like PC. It was the PC game show.
Yes.
And I feel like there was some overlap. Like you knew you're probably gonna see Death's Door at pretty much all of them, and it was stuff like that. Like you know, you would see at least a trailer for like
All the indie darlings.
yeah. But they also each had like their own handful of ones that you didn't see at other places. So there was that as well.
So shifting to Sunday, the next big show, which I believe to be when we're going to get a bunch of Starfield information, is the Xbox and Bethesda game showcase.
That's the exciting one.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. It's unclear. We talked a little bit about this, if maybe they're going to pull back on Starfield a little bit since it got delayed, but I think we're still going to get more details on it. But it's not just the Bethesda showcase, it's the Xbox and Bethesda. So, I mean, they have any number of things. They've purchased so many development houses. Who knows what could be there,
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they work it out because it is the first, Bethesda showcase under Xbox. So you have to, we were speculating on whether the Xbox would give them time to do like a full, show the way they would have done with like say Fallout 4 when they did that.
I think I think that would be a for sure thing if it was coming out this year, but now
Yeah.
I'm hesitant about it since it's been
Yeah.
delayed.
Have to wonder about that now for sure. But yeah, they've got a lot of stuff to show because the Xbox has like a million other studios now.
Yeah. Um, and then after that, the PC gaming show is at noon, or no, is at 3 p.m. Not much information about this, but could be interesting. Following that, Thursday, June 12th, this is post, so everything is pretty much contained in this 2-week period, and then all these other things are just later in the summer. And actually, I don't even know if we need to talk about these. There's an Overwatch showcase happening on June 16th, which I don't know why that's happening. THQ Nordic showcase is happening in August, and then Gamescom will be something we probably do cover, but that's not until August 23rd, so we'll talk about that later on.
Yeah, that's like last year EA did their show like a month or two like after everything else, and it was like, why are you spaced out so far? But
yeah, people are primed for information during this 2-week period, and I feel like you're a fool if you want to, like, I guess there's something to be said for like owning the news cycle if you're the only thing going on, but also like if you don't have a lot going on, you got to ride the coattails of something like this, and like you'll be included in the conversation more if you are in this little fake E3 period. So we haven't heard anything from Ubisoft or Nintendo. Those are, I guess, the two, and no Devolver Digital announcements as well. Were we recording when we started talking about this? But Devolver Digital always has a super weird, cool little showcase, and
yeah,
they have not announced anything during this period, so maybe it's not happening this year. That would be a bummer because I love to watch those. But
I feel like eventually we'll hear about, like, it'll be the same like with Nintendo, where it'll be like, oh, the Devolver Digital one's happening, tomorrow or whatever.
There's a plenty of time between the Sony State of Play and Summer Games Fest. There's a whole week where there's nothing going on, so that would be a great time to drop one of those in, or maybe at some point on Saturday or Sunday. But yeah, what do you think about the slate? Are you excited for more things than just the Games Fest and Bethesda?
I mean, definitely I'm looking forward to the Sony State of Play, and I'm looking forward to the Xbox and Bethesda one. But I remember last year finding those like smaller shows like the PC Game Show and like Future Game Show and Wholesome Direct that had like not as big games, but they were like really interesting like indie games. I remember finding those shows to be a lot of fun because I was like, oh man, this looks cool, and this looks cool, and this looks cool, and I just added like, I don't know, like 100 games to my like Steam wish list from just like watching those shows and getting hyped for all these like fun little games and not necessarily like the big like AAA games that everybody's looking forward to. So I'm into those shows as well. Yeah, it's always an exciting time. It is something to look forward to for sure.
We should do maybe like, I think next week will be our like full predictions episode for everything. But I'm on the record as saying that Alf is going to make an appearance at Games Fest. Do you have one major prediction for Summer Games Fest?
I'm gonna go with God of War Ragnarok gets a release date, but it's not this year. It's next year.
2023. Yeah, I could see that.
Maybe that's too easy a call to make, and it's not a wild prediction.
I wanted to talk about this before we get into anything else. Also, Star Wars Celebration was this past week, which a bunch of news about random stuff, but they also released the first real trailer for Willow. Did you ever watch Willow when you were a kid?
Yeah, it's been forever, but I remember that movie.
I loved that movie, and so they're making a little TV show about it, and it looks okay. I'm interested to watch it. They had a little bit of the music, the score from Willow in it that got me a little bit. But yeah, that's something we'll maybe talk about if it starts to be in the zeitgeist.
Is it bringing
But
back what's his name?
Mad Mardigan.
The guy that played Willow.
Oh yeah, yeah, they are.
What about uh, who else was
Val
in that?
Kilmer.
Oh yeah, Val Kilmer was in it.
He is not in the trailer, and he also Top Gun Maverick came out this week, and I can't tell if he's in that movie. Val Kilmer famously has had some health troubles and maybe isn't able to talk anymore. But I believe if he shows up in person in Top Gun Maverick, they have not showed that in the trailers, but I think if he shows up in Top Gun Maverick, I think there is a somewhat high likelihood that he will appear briefly in Willow. But I feel like if he's not in Top Gun Maverick, he's probably not in any state to be in this Willow show. So I hope he is. Mad Mardigan is a great character, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm interested in watching that for sure, but I don't want to sub to Disney Plus, but maybe I will have to sooner or later.
I would like some updates on your Steam Deck because I know you told me you completed Tunic. I guess this is kind of a mixed in what we're playing, watching, and an update on Steam Deck. But how are you liking it?
I'm liking it. So I played the entirety of Death's Door on the Steam Deck. I finished that
Ooh.
up this last week, and I really like that game. And it was sort of the like perfect, Steam Deck game, or like a Switch game if you were gonna say that. But that's kind of the nice thing about the Steam Deck is now you kind of like every time like an indie game came out previously where you're like, when is it coming to Switch? Like, I hope it gets a Switch release. And now it's just like, if an indie game comes to Steam, which they pretty much all start on Steam, it's just like, oh, I have a perfect game to play on my Steam Deck now. So, not having to wait for it to come to Switch is pretty great.
How'd you find the bosses in Death's Door? Because I had a real trouble with the Yeti who would roll into you. I found that to be very difficult.
I like each of the bosses. It was kind of like with like Elden Ring or Souls, like where you have to die a number of times to like kind of figure out the patterns and like when your opportunities to attack were. I mean I obviously died like several times on each of the bosses to like sort of figure out how it worked and just to like get the timing down on things, but he was not too bad because you just like learn as soon as you see him winding up to roll. You just kind of have to wait a little bit longer than maybe you think you have to at first, for him to actually hit the ground and start rolling before you do your dodge. But like once you work that out, it's not too bad. The final boss was the tough one.
Yeah,
because the final boss uses pretty much every attack you've seen before from previous bosses and just all rolled into one. But you have seen all of those before, so you kind of know how to deal with them, but you just sort of have to deal with them again and know that it can go from one boss's set of attacks to a different boss's set of attacks. But they kept it pretty consistent in terms of like when he was going to do things, so you kind of knew what to look for. But
did you do any of the post-game stuff?
Well, so I did. Once I finished the final boss, I went back and found all of the weapons and I found all of the shrines. So I should have done that before I did the final boss, but I had full health and full magic after defeating the boss. That would have made things a little bit easier, but yeah, no, that final boss is like, there's sort of like 3 stages to it. There's like the intro stage where he jumps around and you attack him and then he goes through a door, and then that's like a checkpoint. So if you die after that, you start at that second checkpoint, and then it's like a gauntlet where you're just like running through, what do you call that part of the world? Like the
door zone.
And there are these like bulls that have like doors for heads that keep running at you, and you're like using the grappling hook to like to try to avoid them. And then you'll eventually go through another door, and it'll be like one of the different zones you've been to previously in the game, and you'll deal a little damage to the final boss, and then so you have to do that. Like that middle section is like really it feels long and hard to get
It's
through.
punishing, yeah.
Yeah, but once you get through that, you're like good. You can that's another checkpoint, so you can start from there, doing the final actual boss fight. And so it wasn't too bad once I got there, but
Now, juxtapose that with your time with Tunic. Did you also play Tunic on the
no,
Steam Deck?
I played Tunic on Game Pass, and I'm not sure. Like, I'm pretty confident you can get Game Pass games to run on the Steam Deck, but I wasn't sure how the cloud, if you could cloud save it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having trouble with cloud save through Steam, which is supposed to work just right out of the box. So I just didn't want to mess with it. So plus I was pretty far in Tunic already, so I just wanted to wrap it up. And yeah, the final boss of that, like I got to a point, I think it was the last two bosses where I was just like, all right, I'm done messing with the stamina thing. So I turned off the stamina so that because we talked about this before, but like the way it works is every time you attack, every time you dodge roll, and every time you block an attack, it like uses up some of your stamina. And
Mm-hmm.
if you run out of stamina, your stamina bar turns red. And while it's red and you have no stamina, you take extra damage if you get hit, which you're going to do because you can no longer block and dodge. So it's
Yeah.
like it feels really punishing, and you have to like be very careful about managing your stamina bar. And I made it through most of the game that way, like with the regular difficulty and the regular like stamina functions. And then I got sick of it with this second to last boss, and so I turned that off. And it was still like that didn't make it any easier because that boss is like pretty tough. And so I was like, I got to the point where I was like, I'm kind of ready to be done with this game. And so I even turned off the like put on easy mode, or the no fail mode, I think is what they say.
Yeah, where you can't take damage.
Yeah, and so I got through the final, or that second to last boss, using that. And then after that, I guess spoilers for Tunic, but you have to like you die because you go to fight the final boss and he kills you. Even if you're in no fail mode, you die. That's supposed to happen. And then you enter like this shadow version of the place that you're at, like the map, and you're kind of like a ghost person. And so you have to go around to all the hero shrines that are scattered across the map, and you have to like
Mm-hmm.
pray at the shrines or whatever. And each time you do that, you regain a little bit of yourself. Like you regain like each of those different stat upgrades that you get along the way. There's like 5 or 6 different attributes that you're leveling up along the way. And so you're reclaiming one of those at each of the shrines, basically. And that's how you regain your physical form. And then you can go back and fight the final boss. And that final boss is an insane battle. Like I was playing it on no fail mode, and I was like, I would die so many times trying to get through this if I didn't have no fail mode on. And it was just like, I don't know. I don't think I would have had fun trying that boss fight without no fail mode. So I finished it to finish it, and not necessarily because I was loving the combat, but
Mm-hmm.
so I definitely think Death's Door is a much better game than Tunic, but I like a lot of the ideas in Tunic. So
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's a bummer. We talked about it, I think, a couple shows ago. It's like everything about it is great except for the gameplay. It's like the
yeah,
one thing that's bad about it.
yeah, and it's like that's not a small thing either. So like that's why
Yeah.
I'm so like kind of mixed on it, because there's so much I like about it. Like I like the art style, I like the music, I like the world, I like the sort of set piece design, and I like that
The little
you're
instruction manual.
yeah that you're going around collecting those pages for the instruction manual, and you're able to pull that up and like use it to like some of them are map pages, and some of them are just about like enemies and the different items that you get in the game and different abilities. I liked all of that stuff. I just never enjoyed the combat, and that's kind of you're doing a lot of combat throughout the game, so that's kind of a
Yeah.
big knock on it. But I don't know. I
Tell me
highly
about
recommend
Switch
Death's Door
Sports.
though.
Yeah, that I loved. I frequently will get the music to that stuck in my head.
Yeah, I
I
was
had a
listening
similar
to the
thing where
soundtrack earlier this week.
my only complaint with it is that it is like they don't really put the new weapons in your field of view. Like you can very easily skip over getting like the daggers and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I played most of the game with just like the default weapon. Um,
I found so there's an umbrella that you can find in
yeah,
like the
I found the
the
umbrella
door
because that's in
region.
your path. Like there's, it's very
Yeah.
hard to not miss that or to
And
miss that.
then the like the thunder hammer, which is the one I ended up using the most.
That I also found.
I found that one pretty easily. It's the other two. It's the daggers
Yeah,
and
and the big sword.
big like great sword that you feels like you kind of have to earn those because they're
Yeah.
not easy to find, and even if they are like you can see them in the world, it's not clear how to get to them. So I did like look up a guide to find those two.
Great world design, though, I have to say.
Yeah, very good world design. Great art style, great music. I enjoyed the combat significantly more than Tunic. I
Oh,
just
yeah.
can't recommend that game enough, especially if you like Zelda-like games. So,
Let's talk about Switch Sports.
oh yeah, so we meant to talk about this last week, and I completely forgot about it. But it's been a little bit of time since I played this, but we joked or not joked, but we talked maybe like 2 or 3 episodes ago about how like I had picked up Switch Sports and I was like, it's just good to have on a shelf, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you're probably not going to play a ton of it by yourself, but it's good to have for scenarios when like you have family or friends over or something like that. I take it back. I think it's fun to play online because I got really into that like soccer mode that they have that's new
Really?
to Switch Sports because it's the most like control intensive because you are using both Joy Cons for it, but it's basically Lucio Ball from Overwatch or
Oh, yeah.
Rocket League, where you have like a giant soccer ball, and so you're just like running around and you're swiping the controllers to do the kicks, so you can kick it up and to the side and stuff like that. And it's just a lot of fun. I don't know, like it has matchmaking online, so it's like teams of 4,
Mm-hmm.
and as you play you like I think you do like and this is the same for all the game modes, but you play 10 matches I think, and then it like is like, oh, now you've gone pro, so like you start off with like an E grade, and you're like as you win or you like perform well you start gaining experience towards like pushing your grade up, and so like you can work on building that grade up. Like it's not for any particular reason. I think it's just like to show how much success you've had, I guess. Bragging rights, maybe, I guess they would say. But you can build that up individually on each of the different game modes. And as you do that, like you gain experience after every match, and once you get up to like 100 you can unlock like a new cosmetic item of some sort, and like it seems like every week they have like a new pack of like cosmetics to unlock. So I got into trying to get some of those cosmetics, and so that was fun. The thing is it feels like it's a little bit lacking in terms of content and modes and stuff. Like it would be nice if you could go into like the bowling mode, for instance, and choose to matchmake specifically for like the special game mode that involves like
Mm.
bowl on these crazy lanes that have it's like mini golf but for bowling, where there's like
Ooh.
obstacles you have to roll around, or there's like it's like a track that kind of has a dip or and then it goes up, so you have to roll your ball in a different way to try to hit the pins. I found that fun, but there's no way to select it. So you're just, if you want to do bowling, you're either going to do the normal mode, which is a little bit like a battle royale type of a mode where you start with 16 people, and after each set it like whittles down until there's only one person left.
Mm.
But that's normal bowling. It's not the special type of bowling. So like you end up playing a lot of that when maybe you would rather do the special, but you can't search for it because it's not an option. And with like tennis and some of the other modes, there's like it's just the tennis. There's like not special modes. There's not like the bowling one doesn't have. I think in the Wii version there was like you had to try to knock down like 100 pins or whatever. Um,
Oh, I remember that. That was cool.
yeah, there's nothing like that in here. It's just the basic stuff. You don't have any options. Like if you wanted to do like a longer match of tennis, for instance, you don't have the option to select that. You just have like the basic like one set. So that's a little disappointing. And I do think it should have launched with golf and like baseball right out of the gate. Um, just to fill out how much content was there. But golf is coming this fall, and I suspect that they're going to treat this like a little bit like a game as service, where it's going to be like, here's new modes, here's
Yeah.
new
I think that is the
customization.
case.
And I feel like it's going to be one of those things where they're going to be like, here's GBA and Game Boy games for Nintendo Online. Also, the Switch Sports pack is tied into Nintendo Online. So it'll be like the next version of like the Animal Crossing DLC where it'll come bundled in with Nintendo Online. But
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
so I feel like that's the direction this is going. I do wish there were more options for the online stuff, but what's there is fun. It's just like when it comes to tennis, I find tennis a little bland, especially when so like I've played the Mario Tennis, and there's like obviously those games like try to go out of their way to make that mode like over the top and interesting. And so to play that and then to go to the Switch Sports version, it's a little bland by comparison, but um, it's still like the other game modes I think are still fairly fun, especially the soccer. Highly recommend that one.
I started watching the new season of Stranger Things.
How is it? Did that just come
I
out?
think, yeah, it came out yesterday. I think I watched the first two episodes, two or three. It's good. They really ramped up the horror this season. Like it's some really gross stuff happens. But it's fine so far. I don't think like I feel like this happened last season too, where it's fine, but everyone is sort of in disparate areas. Like they're not all together. And I feel like the show works the best when all the characters finally meet up and tell each other everything they've learned about the situation, and then they're all working towards the same goal. So I'm excited for that to happen. It seems like they are collecting. Also, I forgot that that one guy, Steve, works at a family video, which I briefly worked at for a
Oh
while.
yeah.
So it was very nostalgic to watch him work in a family video. Um,
Well, this is set
but
in
yeah,
the '80s, so they could have done Blockbuster.
they could have done Blockbuster, but they're in like the Midwest though.
Well, yeah,
I
but
wonder. I wonder if it would be
Midwest
more
had Blockbuster.
expensive. I wonder if it'd be more expensive for them to use the Blockbuster branding.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was.
Also, maybe it's just because I only saw them up here, but I feel like Family Video is more a Midwest because they weren't in Texas or anywhere else that I was at.
Really? You know, didn't have
Yeah,
Blockbuster?
we had Blockbuster. We didn't have Family Video.
Okay. I was gonna say, yeah, we had Blockbuster, but I don't remember there being Family Video. But
Really?
maybe I'm just misremembering because maybe it was just that my family only ever went to Blockbuster. But
The two we had were Blockbuster and Hollywood Video.
well, yeah, we had Blockbuster and Hollywood Video. I don't remember there being Family Video, but
Really?
once Family Video popped up, they were everywhere.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been good. I definitely prefer all the. I think Steve and Robin, his like friend, are my two favorite characters. So I am interested whenever they're on screen. But I don't know. There's like a lot of depressing stuff happening as well in the first two episodes, like where Millie Bobby Brown is like being bullied, and it's like very sad to watch.
Mm.
So I'm not into that part, but I'm going to continue to watch it. My fear is that this is, I believe, going to be the final season, and it's cut up into two parts as they are wont to do these days. So the first part, I think, is like 8 episodes, and then the second part will be out, I think, next year at some point.
Oh, really?
But my fear is that this whole first part is going to be the part that I'm not super into, where they're all like on their own journeys collecting information, and then the final episode will be them all getting together. And then the next half of the season is going to be the part that I enjoy, which is where they're all together, all working towards the same goal.
Yeah.
But hopefully that's not the case, and they do all get together and start hanging out together this like half of the season.
I feel like shows do that where, like, what I like is when they start out and they're all sort of on their own a little bit, or they're in like different groups, and that's how you get to know them. And then eventually their paths converge and they all group up, and that's like super fun in the first season. But then eventually they do this thing where they split everybody off again, and that's not as fun.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how it's going to work, because like it seems like there's 3 disparate things happening. There's people that are in Hawkins that are trying to figure stuff out. Everybody in Hawkins is now kind of in the same group in like the second episode. But then the other half of the people are in California, and I don't know how they're going to... I mean, I assume at some point they're going to have to get back to Hawkins, but I don't know what's... Right now, they're just having their depressing California story. And then a third group is Winona Ryder and Brett Gelman are trying to free the guy that's in Russia. And so I think they're going to go to Russia, and that's like going to be their storyline. So you're hopping between these 3 people. I don't know. They introduced a cool weirdo. There's like a guy who runs their Dungeons and Dragons game, who I think is an interesting new character, who I hope does not die. And he is a cool addition to the group if he does in fact join the group and start like solving problems with them. But
I don't know, if he's outside the normal cast, I feel like he's a red shirt. So
I don't know. It's possible. That would be a bummer if he died, because I think he's a cool guy. But we'll see. I'm going to watch more of it. Also, so that Stranger Things and the Obi-Wan Kenobi show both released yesterday, and I have not started. There's 2 episodes of that Obi-Wan Kenobi show, but hopefully by next week I will have watched more Stranger Things and started that Obi-Wan show, and I'll be able to talk about both of them.
I will watch Stranger Things. I just haven't gotten around to it. I probably will not watch Obi-Wan, but I will be interested to hear what you have to say about it.
I'm interested in it. I've heard it's good so far. All the articles I've read have said like, oh, this is exactly what it needs to be, and this is interesting, and like we're excited to see where this goes. So I'm looking forward to it. I just have not. Yeah.
And then I know as we're recording this, it's Memorial Day weekend, so Top Gun Maverick is out, and I desperately want to watch that. So
yes,
I will probably go see that this weekend.
I recently watched the first Top Gun for the first time.
Yeah, I can't believe it was the first time you've ever seen it.
But I am excited to go see Maverick. They say it's great in movie theaters, and so I might actually make the trip out to a movie theater to go watch this.
I was gonna say, I feel like the shots of like from in the jet and just like watching the jets fly around, like you're gonna want to see this on a big screen.
Yeah.
IMAX if you can. Is it in IMAX? I don't know.
D-Box if you can.
Yeah.
Probably be crazy in D-Box.
But yeah, I definitely want to watch that, and if we both end up seeing it this weekend, maybe we can talk about it next week. Yeah,
I'm into that. We'll see what happens. Yeah, it's a full 3-day weekend for everybody.
Well, not for me, but that's fine. Oh. Yeah. Are you got anything you're playing recently?
Every once in a while, I'll be on my computer and I'll load up Vampire Survivor still to just play around with that as I'm doing something absent-mindedly.
It's great on Steam Deck.
I would say, I'm trying to think if I have played anything recently. I've been playing that Baba Is You whenever I have some free time, because invariably I will get stuck, but then I will have another avenue I can go down and figure out more stuff. And so I'm not making a ton of progress in it, but it is very satisfying whenever I do complete a level. I think I'm just like waiting for. I beat that Haiku the robot, and that was very satisfying. I would love to play another little. I was looking at that Gato Roboto game because it looks pretty similar to Haiku the robot, but I haven't picked it up yet.
Mm. Yeah. Have you heard of this V Rising game?
Yeah, I saw there were a bunch of articles about it. It's like a top-down game, right, where you're a vampire and you're building out
Yeah.
your castle.
So it's basically a combination of Valheim and Diablo. And
Mm.
it's like this year's Valheim, where like it seems like it's sort of the hot new game. It's maybe not on the same level as Valheim, just because when that came out, there was like it was a wide window of nothing else,
Yeah.
and so everybody was playing it and talking about it, such that even like the min max guys were doing like live streams and talking about it and playing it, which I feel like they don't normally do. Like here's a recent release that we're just going to stream, they don't normally
Yeah.
do that, but they did for Valheim. And they have not started talking about V Rising yet, I don't think, but it's like that kind of game where I'll like open Twitch and like half the people I follow are playing it. And it seems pretty crazy. It's in early access on Steam. It's like $20, and I've heard there's a lot of content for $20. But yeah, basically you're building your keep, and then you go out and you like gather resources and you can keep building. But also because you're a vampire, you like can't go out during the day or you'll like burn up. So you have to like kind of stay inside. But then at nighttime, you go out and you can do like Diablo style combat, and there are like bosses to fight, and it sort of becomes like an RPG where you're like leveling up and getting gear and stuff like that. So like people are super into it. So I feel like that's one that we're gonna hear quite a bit about over the
Yeah, I would
rest of
maybe
the
take a
year.
look at that.
So I'm curious about it. I don't know if it's my type of game and if I want to jump into it or not, but I also it's one of the games that I would try if it were like approved for Steam Deck, but it is not currently. So that
Yeah,
hurts my interest a little bit. But I mean, I could always just play it on PC. But
it's true. Yeah, it seems like it's meant to be played with mouse and keyboard at the
yeah,
moment.
for sure. Which I guess maybe if I just like Bluetooth a mouse and keyboard to my Steam Deck, but
It's true.
at that point I might as well just be playing it on PC. But yeah, so I was hanging out with my parents earlier this week, and I told you a little bit about this. My mom got the Switch OLED, which is very
OLED.
nice by comparison to the original Switch. But also she was so my younger sister had a copy of Super Mario Odyssey that she loaned to my mom, and she was stuck on Bowser towards the end, and so I jumped back into that game. First time I've played it since I originally beat it back in like 2017.
Oh, really?
And it's so good, that game.
It's so good.
It did make me want to go back and play that game. I was like, it is. You forget because it's been so long, but that game is so good.
It's so
Um,
I played all the way through it, and then I went back and did a bunch of the moon stuff,
mhm.
and then my girlfriend played through it, but she didn't. She only got like the minimum number of moons per world to get to the next world, and we didn't do any of the moon stuff. So, like sometime last year, I was like, let's jump back into this, and so we started collecting all the moons she hadn't collected and all the like moon fragment moons.
Yeah.
And man, it's just like it's such a solid game. It's
Yeah.
so replayable.
It's so good. And it did like just that little bit of like jumping back into it this week made me want to go back and replay it, but I have not yet. But what I did jump into, because I finished Mass Effect 1, I started Mass Effect 2.
Whoa.
And I have to say, I thought that it would be the one I remembered the least, because I feel like it's been the longest amount of time since I played that one, but also like I feel like I've played Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 3 maybe more times than Mass Effect 2 for some reason. But then I like jumped back in and I was like, oh no, it's all coming back to me. I remember I got to go here to talk to this person and then here to do this. So like immediately it's coming back to me, and it's you forget like all the good moments in that game. Like
Two
I
is the best one.
Yeah, that's what everybody says, and I was like, I don't know, like I still have a lot of nostalgia for Mass Effect 1, but as I'm playing it now, I'm like, oh, maybe they are right. Just
The
cuz like
breakthrough, I feel like, is the character missions because
yeah.
like all the recruiting you have to do
Yeah.
makes you so much care about everybody.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like they really like got down the crew building aspect of it, cuz you
Yeah.
like you're given these like dossiers, and you go around and you like recruit people to your team, and
Hmm.
then as they're on your team you like go do missions, and in between missions you go talk to them, and you like start building a relationship, and then you unlock like the ability to do loyalty missions, and as you do those you build up loyalty, and like all of that just like really endears the characters to you in a way that the other RPGs just don't really do as well.
It's so good.
So I've recruited Garrus and Morden, and then I was doing the one of the DLC things you can do is you can go find like the crash site for the Normandy after it crashes in the opening scene of
Hmm.
Mass Effect 2, and I was like, I wonder if this is like what it's going to be like in the next Mass Effect, where you're like, maybe you're playing as Liara, and you're like, you go find the wreckage of like all this stuff, and you're like finding dog tags, and you're like, because as you go around on the snowy planet where the Normandy has crashed, you'll find like the CIC just like sitting there and sort of broken
Hmm.
apart, but it's still together enough that you can recognize it, and you walk into it, and then like a little flashback happens, and you like see what it looked like, or like you'll see a character that is no longer with you, that you can sort of have a little moment with. I wonder if they'll do something like that in the next Mass Effect, for like, here's
Mm.
pieces of the Citadel, or stuff like that.
What's the status of the Citadel post Mass Effect 3?
It's hard to say, because it seems like maybe it's destroyed or partially destroyed. It might still be out in space, or it might have crashed into something. I don't know. Unclear.
If they bring Shepard back and it's all cool, I would play another Mass Effect game.
I hope they do, because what we talked about last week of him possibly still being around, um,
I'm
I
into that.
I really like that idea, and I think it probably is the way to go, because it's a little like removing Michael Scott from The Office. Like, you can't take the main character away and have
Yeah.
it feel the same for some
Hmm.
reason. So I don't know. Hopefully that's what they do. But
Will
uh,
we? What EA hasn't said anything about Summer Games Fest, right? Or like anything in the summer? Do you think they'll have
was
any
it? I
presence?
thought they said maybe they weren't doing one this year,
Really?
but
Maybe they did.
I
Yeah,
don't recall.
because that would be a good get for
For
Keeley.
sure, if they were gonna do something, though, if they did do something, it would the concentration would be on the next Dragon Age and not the next
Yeah.
Mass Effect. So just because that's what's coming up next, and I have to say, so the only Dragon Age game I've played is Inquisition, which is the third one, uh, and I liked that one, but I started following this Mass Effect lore podcast that these people do. And one of the guys on it was like, come follow me on Twitch. I'm playing through the first Dragon Age for the first time. I was like, oh, I don't think I ever actually played that game. Maybe I should watch it. But I did start the game. I just didn't make it very far. And as I was watching it, I was like, man, these games have not aged well. They look really rough. Like, if ever there was like a follow up candidate for like, a Dragon Age Legendary Edition, like the Mass Effect one, like they're gonna have to do that, because
Really pump it up.
yeah, I mean, I remember like it must have been, I don't know, like 2010, 2011, something like that, when I played the first Dragon Age, and it looked and felt kind of rough to me back then. And so watching this guy play some of it is just like, yeah, I don't know. Plus, the weird thing about the first Dragon Age, and I don't know if this holds true to Dragon Age 2, but it was basically MMO style combat, but it was not an MMO.
That's bad.
Yeah.
Because that's the worst part of an MMO.
Yeah. Which is why I was like, I don't think I could go back now and play this game. Even if I was curious, I don't think I could do it.
Here's something. Here's a prediction. We're going to do predictions next week, but here's a prediction that maybe we'll forget that I said come next week. But I bet that at the Xbox Bethesda showcase, we'll get a little Fable. Because we've not heard a lot about Fable. We only got that one CGI trailer, and that's something I feel like that they could really pull out of their bag of tricks and would impress people.
Yeah, for sure. Did you play the first 3 games?
I think I played the first. I watched my friend. All of my friends had original Xboxes, and so I watched someone play through like the first 2 hours of Fable. Maybe Fable 2. I think it was just first Fable. And it seemed fine for what it was. I didn't have an Xbox, so I didn't really super care about it. But I know they're like heavily lauded. Like people are into them.
Yeah, especially the first 2, I think.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see where that could go.
I started Fable 2. I don't know why I didn't finish it, because I think I did like it. Maybe I like rented it or borrowed it and had to like return it, but I don't know. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to, just to see like what they come up with for that game. Could be really cool.
I agree.
Also, another thing I did while I was hanging out with my parents this week, I took my PS5 over to show them like what the DualSense is like, and they played all the way through that Astro.
Oh yeah,
Astro's Playroom. That game's pretty good. Like
that's what I've heard
for a tech demo. Basically, that's what it amounts to. It's a pretty good game, actually.
I've heard that the VR one as well, the Astros VR whatever, is also like a super solid tech demo that is actually just like a super fun game. Yeah,
I feel like they're sort of missing something by not like just developing Astro's Playroom or that type of thing into like a full-on series. Like that could be one of their, mascots for the PlayStation.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, I don't know why they've not developed that further and done like a full-on like PS5 Astros game, but maybe they think of it because they've only done it as like a VR title and like a tech demo for the PS5. Maybe they think people think of it as not like a full-fledged series. They'd be like, "What? You want me to pay $60 for like a full Astro game?" I don't know. That's probably the mindset they have, but I feel like enough people have played that and liked it that they could do a full one.
I think that about wraps it up for us.
It does. Do you have any parting wisdom?
Is there a Smash Burger where you live?
There is not.
Smash Burger is doing, I think, $1 fries or tots every Thursday until like the end of July.
So get some tots?
Yeah. Tater tots are great. Here's something. I got some like hash brown patties. Like they're basically like ovals that are just hash browns that are frozen and stacked up like cards. Those are really good. And I think everybody sells those. You should go check those out. They're great.
Now, I know people don't like Taco John's as much as Taco Bell, but I have to say the potato olays are maybe my favorite iteration of the tater tot.
When I lived, I briefly, for 2 years, I lived in a remote town in the middle of nowhere that had Taco John's, and I developed an appreciation for Taco John's because the potato olays are great, and also they had like this quesadilla taco that I actually thought was pretty solid.
Yeah.
And so I used to hate Taco John's, but now I actually kind of like it and I'm nostalgic for it.
I was gonna say there was a Taco John's like just across the street from my dorm in college, and so it was easy to go there and just get like a bunch of food, and so I also developed an appreciation for Taco John's.
It's actually good. It's actually great.
Yeah, and potato olays are very good.
I agree.
Well seasoned, oh so salty.
They come with a tub of like a child's cup full of melted cheese if you want.
I don't really eat this kind of thing anymore, but if I did, I would today go out and get a 6-pack and a pound, and I would enjoy it.
6-pack and a pound, a classic order.
Yes, and it would be fantastic. But
I forgot about that.
But maybe that's my recommendation: eat some tater tots.
Eat some tater tots. Wait until Christmas and go get a Nachos Navidad.
Ooh.
From Taco John's, if you remember that commercial that was constantly playing.
How festive.
But yeah, that'll wrap it up for us this week.
We will catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.